That child who breaks the family cycle typically becomes the villain. The moment you stop participating in your family's dysfunction, you suddenly become the villain for some reason. Now you think you better than everybody else. Now you change. But what they don't tell you is this. Breaking the cycle will make the people who refuse to break it uncomfortable because your discipline exposes their excuses. Your boundaries will expose their entitlement. I remember one time I was talking to my brother. I was giving him some game, just trying to show him that he could move a little smarter in life. He said, "You still Lil Rod," trying to remind me of who I used to be, trying to pull me back down to the version of me that he was comfortable with. Because when you evolve, some people in your own family feel like you're abandoning the old version of yourself.
Or they think that they know you better than you know yourself, since they've seen you grow up and, they're like family, or they are family, so they just assume they know you. This reminds me of when I got a vision from God and I came home. I was very excited about it, enthusiastic, happy, and my brother took it as that I was angry. And I was not angry at all. I was not yelling, I was not screaming, I was not throwing things. He even went as far as to say that I was acting like my older brother, my other brother, who had anger issues, who was known to really get angry, like anger issues like punching the wall, screaming, driving recklessly. My passion was coming from a place of love and wanting for people to know that Christ is coming soon. And I was just saying like random Bible verses, and they were like talking like I couldn't see them, like they weren't in the room. And I could start seeing like the spirit in them operating. Like I could see a different layer of the supernatural, like with their eyes, like where they were spiritually blind. It's hard to explain, but I can see the manipulation, the lust, lies, gaslighting, and unbelief. My other brother, who had anger issues his whole life, and I was nothing like that. So to compare like being enthusiastic and passionate about God to anger issues was such a very disturbing way of describing it. Or like wrong interpretation, discernment completely off. Because someone's vision from God made you uncomfortable that your belief, it didn't fall into what your belief system was, which is why you perceived me as a threat, which was atheism, because obviously my family were not believers. And I remember he told me years later, "Don't tell anyone, but I'm an atheist." Like, well, that's surprising. No, it wasn't really surprising. Pretends to be shock. But what the vision from God was is that the Lord is coming soon in our lifetime, and to repent from sin and to not look at things online that are lustful. And because of that, I was seeing spirits. I was seeing right through them what sins they were struggling with, which made them defensive and uncomfortable. And then they started accusing me of things, that I was on drugs, that I was bipolar or schizophrenic. So much so that they held me down. He put his hand over my mouth and tried to lock in his legs so that I wouldn't be able to move, constricting me. They called the police, even though I was not in danger to myself or others, when they were the ones actually hurting me. So that's why every 911 call about someone else doesn't mean that they're the victim. I had another instance where my brother was like attacking me, and I was like pinned up against the wall, and he was screaming at my face and like spitting on me because he was very close to my face. And I had a mug in my hand, so out of self-defense, I hit him over the head with a mug, and then it looked like he was the victim, even though I was acting out of self-defense. Back to the hospital story. I went to the hospital because they said they coerced. Police are very persuasive, and with their uniform, people are more likely feel obligated to cooperate. That as someone who was told, "Oh, okay, well, if there's nothing wrong with you, then you can just come right back home," I was like, fine. And I took it from that perspective and went willingly. When before that, they were forced. I was told later on how it was malpractice, that doctors, psychologists, and nurses are not supposed to make your psych evaluation like bipolar or something like that for religious reasons, because that would mean that there's a religious bias. And you know that in a free country, you're allowed to have religious beliefs and you're allowed to have free speech, which I was exercising. So that was a malpractice. And I've had several medical professionals tell me that they are not supposed to deem something as like a psychological experience as bipolar or schizophrenic when it comes to religious beliefs. So this was religious persecution. They told my mom that they were going to put me on something and then wake me up and see how my reaction is. And depending on my reaction, then they're going to either let me go or send me into a mental hospital, which I didn't know this. They just put me under without telling me. So I had no idea that I was going to be sedated. And I just woke up then in the mental hospital. So they woke me up very aggressively. I don't like being woken up from my sleep. I was like, where am I? What's going on? And that was not a good reaction. The next minute, I'm being rolled in to a mental hospital against my will. This happened 9 years ago. That's why I'm a believer that nothing really looks like what it is when it is towards the end of something. Because if I would have got a snippet video of how I looked trying to get away when I felt like I was being kidnapped, I probably did look manic or crazy. But they were literally putting their hands on me and kidnapping me. So when you're trying to defend yourself and get away from that, it could look from, if you had a video on that towards the end of it, look like a different perspective. And then people go on and tell a smear campaign to your other family members, oh, she was this, she was delusional. That can all be said about you, but God knows the truth. And so my story has not changed 9 years later. Instead, it has grown me and made me to even be more on fire for God and keep searching out the end times and led me down to who I am today. So that's why I am so thankful for that experience. And I forgive my family. I don't resent them at all for that experience. So yes, all things work together for good for those who love Him and have been called according to His purpose.